Good afternoon, welcome to my channel. I'm Beth. Today I want to demonstrate for you this beach scene. I'd like to paint it on Arches 100% cotton cold pressed paper. I'll be using a variety of materials and we're just going to try to get the feel of a lovely beach day. Thanks for joining. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is create my sky. If you'll see, this sky has a good bit of what looks like kind of an ultramarine or cobalt blue or something like that in it, and just some low clouds. And I'm not sure I'm going to do exactly that sky. Creative license says that I can do a different sky if I want to, so I think I'm going to give something a try that I've seen people do before in their skies, and we'll see if it works. I've got this hockey brush. It's a pretty inexpensive little hockey brush, about 1 inch. What I'm going to do is wet the top 2/3 of my page. I have this tape right here to define my horizon line. This is where the ocean will meet the sky. So let's just see. I'm going to wet down my ultramarine, because I think that's the blue I'm going to use here. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, I think that's really the right blue. And what I'm going to do next is just start to wet my sky. But I'm not going to wet it all over, just in lots of places. There's going to be some areas that are not wet. And I don't want to get it too saturated here. Let me see what I'm doing. Kind of have to lean my head over so I can see the where the paper's wet and where it's not. All right, then I'm going to take I may have made it too wet, I don't know. I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and just start dropping it in with my hockey brush. Make it denser in some areas and less dense in others. Let's see here. And what that does, I've also got this leaning a little bit for me so that it will run down. And what that does is it leaves me some white spaces that look a lot like clouds. And I want that, I want that little bit of interest and of difference. One of the great things about a hockey brush is that it really it makes you not be so particular about what you're doing. You kind of just have to throw it in there and see what it does. I also want down here close to the horizon, let me get my little napkins out here. Close to the horizon, I want to put just a little bit of gold, or a golden color. So I'm thinking maybe just a tiny bit of this quinacridone color down in here. I don't want it to turn green on me. I just want it to have that little variety of color. There we go. I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes and let it just kind of do its own thing. Leave it on this, I don't know what you would call it, just something to lean on, so that it's kind of coming downward. Make sure that you don't have too much collecting at the bottom here. And you see what I mean by the green? You have to be a little bit careful. It can turn green on you, and you don't want a green sky. But I think the quinacridone gold really does add something to that sky that's nice. So let's let that dry for a minute, and we'll come right back. Okay, I think that's pretty dry. It's actually really humid in my office today, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long this takes to dry. I'm going to do the ocean next. And if you look here at the ocean, it's kind of a different blue. It's a little bit more of I don't know, maybe a cerulean. It's got a little bit of yellow in it. It's got a little aqua in it. So it could be aqua or a teal, or however you want to look at that. I am going to use Prussian blue for this. And what I'm going to do in order to get that nice dark sea is I'm going to bring my hockey brush fairly quickly across the page so that I have lots of white spaces left over. And I think it'll look a lot like breaks out at sea. Let's see how this works. This should be interesting. All right, here we go. All right, so as you can see, it has left white spaces in different and various places. And I wanted it exactly that way. So I'm gonna come back up here and come as close as I can to the horizon without touching it, because I do want to leave that little space right out there. And I also want to darken the background a little bit right back in here. It doesn't all have to be an exact line, because the sea is very choppy sometimes, and other times it's very calm. This sea looks like it's got some good breaks in it, and I'm just gonna let that right there be my sea. All right, that should, again, it's at an angle, I have it tilted, so that should help it a little bit to continue to meld down together and become one. And so now we have to let that dry, so that should take another few minutes. Okay, I think that's pretty much dry, and I tried to recenter my camera. I hope it doesn't drift again. Okay, now the problem that I have with the sand is that it's basically kind of a silvery white, and it doesn't really show up and do anything in the photograph. So what I'm going to do is make it more of a ochre color, I guess you'd say, so that it really stands out and gives a nice contrast to this blue. So let's kind of figure out what color that's going to be. I'm going to use my 3/4 inch Aqua Elite from Princeton. This is a 3/4 inch wash brush. It's just a flat brush. And I'm going to pick out, let's see, let's go for some ochre here. And I think we're also going to go for some burnt sienna, just a little bit, not too much. And I want it pretty watery, because I don't want this to be a dark yellow sand. I just want it to be kind of a neutral color, really. There we go. I think that's a pretty neutral color. It might even be too light. We're just going to fill it in all the way down. You can leave white spaces if you want to. I really didn't leave much of any white spaces here. Now what I need to do is put some shadows in it. And I noticed that there are some shadows right along in here. There's a shadow. And of course there's some shadows up in here where the dunes are. And the dunes are coming kind of down this way. And this dune is coming kind of down. You can see a little bit over the top of the dune onto the beach. And it's coming down kind of this way. And you've got a little pathway, sort of a pathway right here, where you can get to the beach. And that's what I want to create, is this little pathway. All right, now, what's really going to create the pathway are the grasses. So we have, let's see, is my camera drifting? Maybe a little. Here we go. Please stay. All right. So let's do some of the grasses now, and I want to make sure that I'm doing that when it's relatively dry enough to put the grasses on. Let's mix our green first. That ought to give me some time, because I'll tell you what, mixing green is one of the hardest things ever for me. So this is a little quinacridone gold, and it gives me such a beautiful, bright green that I end up having to dull it down a little bit. That's some yellow ochre. I'm just going to play with it until I get it right. Green is hard. I don't know if you've noticed that, but green is hard. That's going to make it nice and dark. Let's get some burnt umber or burnt sienna or whatever. Let's get some burnt umber and put it in with that very dark peacock blue or whatever, Prussian blue, whatever it is. I think it's Prussian blue. Okay, that's almost black. I don't want it to be black, so let me put some more ochre in it and see if we can't lighten that up into a nice green. Okay, I like that. That's a much better green, I think. Wow, but it's not gonna last me, and I'll have to mix it again, so yeah. We'll just see how that goes. Now all these little sprigs of grass just come up here and they grow up out of the dunes in little clusters. And that's what I'm trying to work with here. We have some growing out that way, some growing over this way, and we're gonna have a few growing in the background there, and a few in the foreground. And it kind of gets dark here, where some of it clusters heavily. You can kind of see the shadows of it coming around. All right, that looks pretty decent. Let's keep going down. I did this picture last night in a inexpensive sketchbook. It really turned out differently. So the paper, I gotta tell you, the paper really does matter. I've heard people say, oh, the paper doesn't matter. And I've even said, you know, the paper can inhibit you to the point that you don't do a good job. And, you know, then where are you? So yeah, use that inexpensive paper all you want. It's, you know, it's there to help you practice and to help you get things right. But eventually try some of the more expensive papers because they really do make a difference. Here's my picture. Now I've got some little spraggly bits down here. And I've got a few coming up this way, which I'm coming actually off the paper to paint those. And then what's really stands out here, of course, the centerpiece of the whole thing are these sea oats rising up out of the grass. And we've got a little right there. I want to get that in. I don't know why. All right, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna make some more of this lovely green because I fear I'm about to run out of it. Even though it looks like there's a lot on my palette, there's really not. Oh wow, that really got dark. Okay, let's get some ochre. All right, that looks pretty good. And what I'm gonna do now, this is the scary part for me because I really can screw this up at this point. Because you see how thick these lines are? I have trouble making really thin lines, even though this paintbrush goes to an extremely thin point. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm gonna start up here. And these sea oats are pretty tall. Look at this, I'm just not good at this. Okay, wow. There's one. Let's just keep pulling it down. 2, 3. Okay, that's about enough on that side. And then I'm just gonna take my dark green paint and dot on what I guess the oats are. I mean, that's why they call them sea oats, because it looks like they've got little oats on them. I do not think they are edible. I don't think they're even real oats. They just look like it. I don't know. I'll have to look and see. If you know the answer to that, leave a comment. I'd love to know. And I didn't look it up ahead of time, so my bad. There we go. They all seem to kind of grow on one side. I guess wherever the wind tends to push them, you know, you see them growing over on one side. Although some of them, you're looking straight onto it, and they're on both sides, which is what I'm going to do here. And then here, we have one as well. These are, I'm just dotting it. All right, that's my sea oat for that side. Let's see what we can do down here where there's maybe some more shadow. Let's get it nice and dark. Green is so hard. I have tried so hard to do the best green, you know, and it really is difficult. You have to practice a long time to get good greens. I've seen loads and loads of tutorials on how to get a good green. And notice I don't do tutorials, I do demos. So, and the reason for that is because I don't really know how to get a great green. I did okay this time, but sometimes I don't. So, all right, now the next one we have on the other side, much more densely clustered right up here. I don't know if I'll make it all that densely clustered or not, but we'll see. I'm gonna start right here. See if I can't get what looks like seagrass. And make it look like it's kind of on a hill, you know? That's a part of the challenge, is to make it look like the sand dune is rising. So we're gonna put some in front, some behind, you know, some coming over the side. It's a little trippy little thing here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then it just kind of gets shorter over here. Yeah, we have some coming this way. Looks like somebody stepped on it maybe. You're not supposed to walk on the dunes. Hope you know that. They'd get you for it. Some lifeguard will come over and, you're not supposed to be on the dunes. Get off. There's no particular reason I know that. Just know it. I just know it. All right. Moving right along. Getting more green. All up in here. Like I said, this was kind of a thick cluster. I'm not making it quite as thick as it is in the picture. But I am going to start doing my oats now, my sea oats. So, cross your fingers, let's hope this works. Make a little tiny bit more green here. And some of these oats are up here. The tallest one's about right here. There you go. And then I'm trying to just barely touch the page, holding my arm steady, as steady as I can. And we've got some crossing over here like this. All right, I think that's probably enough. This one looks kind of thin and puny. I might have to beef it up a little bit. Okay, and my camera just turned off on me there. All of a sudden you're out of your color and you have to stop and make more. It's turning out pretty decent here. Some of them are tall and some of them are short. The real problem with green is that when you get out in nature, you know, it can look like one solid color to your eye. You get a little bit closer and it's really varied, and you have a lot of different kinds of greens. So I'm about to add some different kinds of greens in here a little more yellowy. And the reason for doing that is it just makes much more interesting view for your eye, and it kind of makes you think you're really looking at nature, because nature is not all monotone. And even if your eye is kind of fooled by it when you go outside and you look around, I mean, for me anyway, it really is. It fools me into thinking, well, I'm just gonna have to paint this solid mass of the same colored green, and that's not You know, even if it is the same color green, you don't want to paint it that way because it's just not going to look natural. It's going to look weird. It's going to look like you only had one color green in your palette, or you didn't know how to mix them or whatever. Okay, and that helped out a little bit. I kind of like this. I might need just a little bit more shadow on the sand. Just a little bit more. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out exactly where. I think maybe, you know, like in some places in between the grass where you can just see the shadows coming down from the grass. Because the sun is maybe, you know, off to our right. And then we have maybe some, maybe the sand's a little bit darker as you get back further from the dunes there. That kind of gives you some definition right there at the dune. Now I want that those shadows to stretch out a little bit. Okay. So then maybe we have even a shadow of some of these long stalks, right? Some shadows there. So what do you think? You know, I'm just messing around at this point because, you know, we have pretty much finished it. So what do you think? A nice beach scene. Let me see if I can't back up and show you the entire thing, because I know that what we have here is, here we go. Despite the shadow, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It looks pretty good, eh? I like the way the sky and this orange part right here looks a little bit like a glowing sunset, and then the sand and the oats really do add a lot to the picture. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you'll hang along with me if you'd like. And remember to click like, leave me a comment, and subscribe. See you next time.